All right, we have this hoist in the position that we need it to be in. The air dryer we're going to have to put back on. What they do is they send 3x4 by, I think that's 3/8. I don't think it's 1/2 inch angle iron. It looks like 3/8. And they send pieces of angle iron with the hoist that you're supposed to bolt to the frame, and then you weld the lower hoist mount to it. However, I'm utilizing these holes for the carrier bearing on the drive shaft, and we're just in behind that front bolt hole right there, and half of the angle iron would have been, the hole would have been on half of one end of it. So I'm using different angle iron. I'm using a 4x4 by half angle iron. I've got the holes already marked and drilled that match the cross member / hanger bearing setup on both sides. However, I need to drill a hole in the back of the angle iron on each side of the frame. We've got this mag drill set up on the other side of the frame here, and we're going to go ahead and blow a hole through this side. Then we'll move this mag drill over to the other side. I've had this mag drill for 20 some years. I lengthened a truck frame once for the neighbor. Had to make his frame longer, so we ended up cutting. No, we didn't cut it. We added onto the back, and then we moved the tandems back, and we had to remount everything on the frame from the battery boxes back, and I did it without a mag drill. And after that, I bought this unit here to make this type of a job easier. When I did that truck frame for the neighbor, I had over 100 holes that I had to drill into the frame. All these, this is a different suspension here. He had a Hendrickson suspension, which has a lot of holes in it too. Cross members, frame stops, axle frame stops, you know, you name it. You've got a lot of holes by the time you add everything up. So we'll show you how this unit works horizontally, stuck to the frame. Now that magnet's got 1,700 pounds of pull to it, but it is a vertical pull. You can almost push down on the side of this to break that magnet free. However, most of your pull is from when you push on the drill. They recommend that you hook a little safety unit on here, and that is a good idea anyways. If you trip over the cord and unplug it, you don't want the drill crashing down on the floor. So we're going to go ahead and drill this hole, then we'll drill the hole on the other side. All right, we've got the same thing to do to the other side. Now this is a double frame. Usually when you get into drilling these truck frames, once you hit that section in between the two frames, there's a fair amount of rust there, and that usually drills harder than the actual metal itself. So that drilled rather easy because we don't have any rust here. So this frame is in real nice shape. This bracket for the air tank, I had to take them bolts out because it was crowding into that piece of angle iron a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a zip wheel on a grinder, and we're going to cut the top of that off. We lack just a little bit to be able to get it bolted back into place. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side, drill the other hole over there, and then we have to make sure we have this hoist in the exact position that we need to have it in, and then we'll weld the lower mount down to the angle iron. And then the next step is to figure out exactly where we want to put this tail hinge we're going to be somewhere in here at like 22.5 feet or so. So we're going to be cutting a couple of foot off of this frame. We want to be able to get the proper dump angle and have the proper length for a 25 foot box. We're going to have like a 27-inch overhang or so on a 25 foot box. That's what we're going to put on it for now. And I haven't yet decided if I'm going to build 25s or if I'm going to build 24s, just so that we're not running into an issue where we have too long of a overhang. Now, the overhang increases the dump capacity, but it doesn't increase it that much. You don't want over a 3 foot overhang. We've got one truck with a 35-inch overhang. We've got a couple of them that are crowding 30, and the rest of them are anywhere between 12 and 24 inches. If you get too long of an overhang, what happens is the tailgate drags the pile of feed that comes out of the truck. On a 7 foot box, it's not dragging by much when you've got a 3 foot overhang. But if you had a 6 foot box, that tailgate's closer to the pile and it rakes the pile of haylage as you dump. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side, get some welding done, then we're going to cut that frame. Alright, we have the hoist all mounted, all the bolts are in it, got it welded down to the angle iron brackets. I'm not going to put that air dryer on just yet. That valve body I'm going to put right here on the frame rail, and I'm going to utilize these bolt holes here that hold this cross member slash carrier bearing in, and then we'll combine the mounting bracket with these bolt holes here, just so we don't have to drill any additional holes to the truck frame. We've got to plumb that in yet, hook the hydraulic hoses up to it. We're waiting for a PTO. The PTO that I had for it was the wrong one. Now we're working on the tail end of the frame. I'm going to salvage these tail lights, take these hooks here off. I want to salvage these brackets too, because they're rather nice. We're not going to use the tail light like this as of yet anyways. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do for a bumper off the back end of this truck, but we need to cut this frame about right here. So we need to get these salvageable pieces off of here, and then we can cut the frame and set the tail hinge in, which is right here. So we've just got some bolts to take out, some cutting here. I'll zip this off with a zip wheel, and like I said, we'll save these brackets, and then we can use those lights on something else someday. So we'll join up with you here once we get the torches out and we get cutting it. Alright, we are getting a little bit of a rain shower, and it has cooled off about 10 degrees here. It's 90 plus degrees, or it has been 90 plus degrees here for the most part of the day. Getting ready to cut this frame. We've got this 5-inch tail hinge setting up on top of the frame, and I've kind of used it to mark the spot that I need to have marked here. So we're going to cut this on the back side. We're going to cut down across the middle part of the frame and then down on the back side, and we'll be throwing this much of the frame rail out. Now we have this set at 175-ish inches from the hoist. And if you look on this hoist paper here, it has a chart that gives you the different dump angles and where you need to mount the hoist. Now, if we mounted it at 171 inches, we would be at 55 degrees. The dump angle would be 55 degrees. We're at like 175, so we're right around 52 or 53 degrees of dump angle. Now, they don't go down to a 25-foot box, but a 25-foot box would be equivalent to about a 26-foot with a 36-inch overhang. The more overhang you have, the more of a dump capacity you're going to get. And at 187 inches on a 26-foot box with a 36-inch dump angle, we're at 43.7 tons. 24-inch overhang, we're at 40 ton. And then 18 inches gets down into 38. So we're going to be right around that 35 plus ton dump capacity. Now, when they figure the capacity of the hoist, they're figuring it on a level load. In other words, if it was a load of water, it would dump 38 ton. There goes all my papers, Wyatt. You let that happen, didn't you? So, it is overkill, but the next size down, the hoist, it is the next size down. We run into problems with it being too close to the tandems. Now, we have enough room, if I so choose to put a lift axle in here, I have enough room to slam a lift axle in there. And then the other thing it gives you is it moves that hoist farther ahead, so you don't have such a teetering effect on the actual sills of the body. We have like 8 or 9 foot, there's the envelope right there that goes in. 8 or 9 foot of the body ahead of the hoist. And you need some pretty stiff sills underneath the body so that you don't just fold the body in half. And guys have done that because they let these other outfits put too small of a hoist on there. They'll say, what is your GVW? They'll look at it. They'll want to put a 20-ton hoist on there, and the hoist essentially ends up being beyond center of the actual box. It's actually, you know, at like 8 or 9 foot from the tail hinge, and then it's got like 12 or 13 foot ahead of it, and it just creates too much stress on them sills. So we're going to go ahead and get this frame cut. We're getting a nice rain. We got sun coming in behind it, so this rain's not going to last long. We'll get this cut, get that set in there and welded, and then we'll move on to the next step here. See, I saved the best for last, Wyatt. Look at that. Didn't even drop it on my toe. Yeehaw. That cut like butter.
Oh, yeah.
Usually you get into these frame rails.
Yeah.
And once you start cutting, you hit that first frame rail and you walk into that next one, you hit that rust and the torch hits a brick wall. That rust could be just a little over 1/16 of an inch thick, and it will not blow through that. It blows through that rust harder than it does a 1-inch plate. So usually I have to cut back. I'll cut back a ways and melt it. Get the first layer off, beat the hell out of it with a hammer, and then cut the second one. Okay, for the most part, we've got everything cleaned up with the grinder, and everything looks real good. Now this right-hand side cut beautifully. I didn't have any pockets where the torch exploded into the rust or the dirt or anything. However, on this side, I had a little bit of trouble at the radius right here. There was some dirt in there. And then I had a little problem right here. As I was cutting, the flame didn't burn through, and it burned down before it burned through. But that looks really good. So we're gonna get the tail hinge setting in there. We had it setting in a couple of times. It's nice and square the way we have it ground. So we'll just tack it in place, run a square around it a couple times, and then we'll get that completely welded into place. And then I've left enough room to put a cap on this frame rail here so that we can have our hydraulic hose ends to be able to plug into the back of the truck right here. So we just got to set that down, square it, tack it a couple different times, and just kind of double check ourselves a bunch of times, and then weld that completely into place. Well folks, that is going to do it for this video. I've got the tail hinge all mounted. We've got that done. We've got some work to do yet on the back of the truck here. The hoist is all mounted and secured into place. I've got a couple of reservoirs, oil reservoirs that came here the other day. We're going to work on getting that on tomorrow, along with the hydraulic valve body, which we're going to mount on this left-hand side of the frame. We do have enough room, like I was saying, to put a lift axle on this truck. It's not a plan right now, but we do have the room to do that. So tomorrow should be a better day. It was unbearably hot today, and I had a lot of work under the welding helmet today. And tomorrow is supposed to cool down a little bit. We did get a couple of rain showers today, and just before it rained, cooled right off, and then it got real muggy. After it rained here, so the boys have been moving manure all day. Sarah's been running the tanker spreader in the field, and they've been getting out a lot of manure. So that is going to do it for this video, folks. Leave me a thumbs up if you will, please, and we will catch you at the next video. Thanks for watching, folks.